The Galactic Council Chamber was one of the largest rooms ever built in space. It floated inside a massive space station, bigger than most planets' moons. Its high ceiling arched like the inside of a cathedral, and huge banners of different alien species hung on the walls. On this day, every seat was filled. Alien leaders, generals, and admirals had gathered from across the galaxy. They had come to watch something that was to them pure comedy. In the center of the chamber, a giant hologram hovered above a round table. It showed a single human warship. Small, sleek, and almost laughably tiny compared to the giant cruisers and dreadnoughts used by other species. It was only 50 meters long, barely the size of a transport shuttle. Admiral Korvac of the Zorith Empire leaned back in his seat, his deep blue skin shining under the chamber lights. His voice carried across the room. "This is it. This is the great warship of humanity? By the moons, it is smaller than my personal yacht." The room erupted in laughter. A six-eyed general from the insectoid Vrak species clicked her mandibles and added, "If they send this thing to war, they will run out of oxygen before they even find the enemy." More laughter followed. A few alien delegates tapped their claws, tails, or tentacles on the table in a rhythm, the council's way of mocking something. At the far end of the table, a human ambassador sat in silence. He was an older man, dressed in a plain dark suit, his face calm. He didn't argue, didn't try to defend the ship. He simply watched the hologram. Council Chairwoman Relok, a tall reptilian with green scales, stood and raised her clawed hand. The laughter died down. "Delegates, we have all seen the so-called warship of Earth. The humans claim it is capable of defeating any threat. We are skeptical." The word skeptical was met with a wave of amusement around the table. Admiral Korvac grinned, showing sharp teeth. "I say we put it to the test. Send it against the Kargan fleet in the Belt of Vorn. Let the galaxy see what happens when a toy ship faces real warships." Gasps of agreement and excitement filled the room. The Belt of Vorn was a deadly asteroid field, and right now, it hid one of the largest alien fleets in known space. 300 Kargan warships were stationed there, ready for battle. The Kargans were no joke. They were a brutal warrior species, with ships armed to the teeth. They were feared by almost every race in the galaxy, except the humans, apparently. The human ambassador spoke for the first time. His voice was calm, almost too calm. "We accept the challenge." Some aliens nearly choked on their drinks. Accepting such a mission was suicide. Admiral Korvac slammed his hand on the table. "Excellent. This will be entertaining." The council agreed. It was decided the human warship, designated HSS Whisper, would be sent alone into the Belt of Vorn to face the Kargan fleet. As the meeting ended, the alien leaders walked out laughing, already imagining the quick destruction of the tiny ship. Hours later, deep in the docking bays of the human sector of the station, the HSS Whisper prepared for departure. It was a beautiful vessel, smooth silver hull, narrow profile, and a strange glow along its sides. But to anyone used to massive warships, it still looked like a scout craft or a courier. Inside the bridge, Captain Elias Rain stood in silence, staring at the stars through the viewport. He was in his late 30s with sharp eyes and a calm face that gave away nothing. His crew was small, only 20 people, all chosen for reasons that were not on any public record. His first officer, Lieutenant Karavas, broke the silence. "Sir, the Council's orders are clear. We are to enter the Belt of Vorn and engage." Her voice hesitated on the last word. She didn't say survive or win. She just said engage. Rains didn't look at her. "Plot a course." No public transmission. "We go silent the moment we leave dock." Karen nodded and moved to her console. The crew worked quietly, their faces focused. They weren't nervous. They weren't laughing. They knew something the aliens didn't. As the Whisper detached from the station, several alien delegates watched from the observation deck. Look at it, one Vrak general said, his mandibles clicking with amusement. Like a child's ship. They will be lucky if they last 5 minutes. Another replied. The Whisper activated its engines, and in a streak of blue light, it vanished into hyperspace. The belt of Vorn was a graveyard of rock and metal. Massive asteroids drifted in. Slow orbits, some the size of cities. The entire region was littered with wreckage from past battles. Twisted hulls, broken turrets, and shattered engines floated in the cold void. The Kargan fleet was hidden among the asteroids. 300 warships, painted black, their hulls covered in jagged armor. They had been ordered to remain hidden until the humans arrived, so they could destroy them in a single, glorious strike. On the flagship, Kargan warlord Dravuk stood. At the front of the bridge, his thick, armored tail swaying behind him. His second-in-command approached. Warlord, the human ship has entered the belt. Dravuk grinned, showing serrated teeth. Good, let them wander in. We will crush them between the stones. Back on the Whisper, the bridge lights dimmed as the ship entered the asteroid field. Captain. Rain stood still, his eyes scanning the tactical display. He didn't give a long speech. He didn't tell his crew they would win. He simply said, Phase 1, prepare the drones. From the side bays of the ship, 4 small black drones detached silently. They drifted away, their surfaces shifting colors to match the asteroids around them. No engine flare. No heat signature. Invisible to most sensors. Lieutenant Vos checked. Her screen. Drones in position, Captain. Rains nodded. Good, now we wait. On the Kargan flagship, the sensors officer frowned. Sir, I'm picking up something strange. A flicker in the scans. Asteroids? Dravuk asked without turning. Possibly. But it's irregular, Dravuk snorted. Ignore it. Prepare the fleet. On my mark, we close in and destroy. Them. In the Galactic Council chamber, a massive screen displayed a live feed from long-range probes. Delegates leaned forward, eager to watch the human ship's destruction. Admiral Korvac laughed as he saw the tiny ship drifting among them. Asteroids. Look at it, they're hiding. Do they think they can ambush a fleet of 300? A few aliens even placed bets on how long the Whisper would last. Some said 10 minutes. Some said less than 5. The human ambassador said nothing. He just watched. On the Whisper, the crew waited in silence. The drones had disappeared into the darkness, but their data feeds still reached the ship through tight beam signals. Lieutenant Vos spoke softly. Sir, the Kargan ships are closing in. Rains didn't look up. Hold position. Let them. Come, her brow furrowed. She didn't know what his plan was, but she trusted him. They all did. Minutes passed. The tension built. The crew could almost feel the enemy's presence around them. Then Rains gave the first real order. Drone. 1, engage. Far away, one of the drones attached itself to the underside of a Kargan battleship. It melted a hole through the armor, slipped inside, and released a pulse of energy dot inside the battleship. Alarm screamed. Systems overloaded. The reactor went critical. Before the Kargans could respond, the entire ship exploded in a blinding flash. The council chamber went silent. The Kargans on the flagship froze, and on the Whisper, Rain's voice was calm. Drone 2, engage. And that was only the beginning. The first Kargan battleship's explosion still glowed, faintly among the asteroids when the rest of the fleet realized something was wrong. On the Kargan flagship, Warlord Dravok's tail lashed the floor in anger. Report, what destroyed thee? Vorok's fist. The sensors officer's voice shook. No enemy ship fired, Warlord. It came from inside the hull. Impossible. No boarding craft, no breaches reported. Dravok growled, his armored claws scraping the control console. Find the human ship and destroy it, now. On the HSS Whisper, the bridge was silent except for the quiet hum of systems. Captain Elias Rains stood with hands behind his back, eyes fixed on the holographic map. Red dots marked Kargan ships. Slowly, they were beginning to move. Lieutenant Karavas kept her voice steady, but the tension was there. "Sir, the fleet is spreading out. They're looking for us." "Good," Rains said softly. "We want them to move." He tapped a sequence on the console, and a new set of symbols appeared on the map, the drones. 4 tiny green points, almost invisible among the asteroids. "Drones 2, 3, and 4 maintain shadow positions," Rains ordered. "Target priority, command ships and heavy artillery." Kara glanced at him. "Sir, that's risky. If they detect even one—" "They won't," he interrupted calmly. "They're too focused on us." In the council chamber, the alien delegates were no longer laughing. The massive screen showed the Kargan fleet breaking formation. Small camera drones hidden in the belt streamed the unfolding hunt. Admiral Korvac leaned forward, frowning. "There. Scattering. Why would the Kargan spread their formation against one ship?" The Vrak general clicked her mandibles nervously. "Perhaps the humans are hiding more ships in the field." The human ambassador finally spoke, his voice smooth. "We sent one." The room fell into a tense silence out in the belt of Vorn. The whisper drifted deeper into the asteroid field. Its engines were at minimal power, heat output nearly zero. From a distance, it looked like just another chunk of rock dot inside. The crew worked in dim red lighting to keep their signatures low. Each console showed hundreds of asteroid trajectories. Any wrong move, and a drifting rock could tear through. The ship, Rains studied the map again. He knew the Kargans would not expect a warship to hide. In their culture, warriors faced their enemies openly. Ambush was dishonor. That was exactly why this plan would work. One of the drones made its move. Drone 2 slid silently through the shadows of the asteroid belt. Its hull shifted to mimic the surrounding rock. It drifted underneath a Kargan heavy cruiser. The Iron Fang, the drone's magnetic clamps, latched onto the underside of the ship. With a quiet hiss, it drilled through the armor and released. A small, black sphere. Inside the sphere, a timer began counting down. On the Iron Fang's bridge, the crew barely noticed the faint tremor from deep below. They were too busy scanning the area for the human ship. The countdown hit 0. The black sphere released a concentrated electromagnetic pulse, not enough to destroy the ship, but enough to disable all primary systems in an instant. The Iron Fang went dark, drifting powerless. Before the crew could reactivate emergency power, a secondary charge exploded in the reactor chamber. The ship's rear section ripped apart in silence, flames venting into space. Another Kargan warship was gone. "Warlord." Dravok roared, slamming his fist into the command chair. "This is sorcery. How are they doing this?" The science officer hesitated. "Warlord, these attacks are surgical. It's as if something is planting charges on our ships without us knowing." "Impossible." Dravok snapped. "No one can get close without being detected." But even as he said it, another explosion bloomed in the distance, this time from a frigate on the far edge of the field. Back on the Whisper, Lieutenant Voss smiled faintly. 3 down. Stay patient, Rains said. "We don't want panic. We want chaos." He turned to the communications officer. "Open a narrow beam transmission to Drone 4. A moment later, the response came. The drones on board. AI had locked onto a target, the Kargan communications relay ship. Rains' eyes narrowed. Destroy it. The relay ship was one of the most heavily guarded vessels in the fleet, not because it had powerful weapons, but because it carried the network hub for all fleet communications. Drone 4 approached slowly, hiding in the radar shadow of a large asteroid. At the perfect moment, it detached from the rock and accelerated. It crossed the distance in seconds, attaching itself to the relay's underside. Instead of an explosive, the drone released a packet of code, a virus designed to overload the Ship's encryption systems. Within minutes, the Kargan fleet's communication network began to fail. Orders from the flagship were delayed, distorted, or lost entirely. In the council chamber, the alien delegates began murmuring. On the live feed, they could see the Kargan ships drifting aimlessly, some even colliding with asteroids. Admiral Korvax frown deepened. They're blind. They can't even coordinate. The human ambassador remained silent, but there was a faint smile at the corner of his mouth. On the Kargan flagship, chaos spread. Officers shouted conflicting orders. Ships that were supposed to form hunting packs were now wandering alone. Warlord Dravok's eyes burned with rage. Enough! All ships, converge on the human vessel's last known position. I will tear it apart myself. Rains watched the movement on the map with satisfaction. The red dots began clustering toward one side of the asteroid field, away from the Whisper's true location. They've taken the bait, he said. Kara tilted her head. Bait? Sir, what's the trap? Rains finally smiled, a rare thing. You'll see. He turned to the helm. Prepare the Black Spear launcher. The crew exchanged glances. The Black Spear was an experimental weapon no one outside the Whisper's crew had ever seen. Even most humans didn't know it existed. Trap was simple, but deadly. While the Kargan fleet moved toward the false position, the Whisper's drones had been planting beacons on select asteroids throughout the field. These beacons were disguised as random pieces of rock, but they were connected to a powerful gravitic pulse system. When activated, the beacons would shift the asteroids' orbits, sending them on collision courses with the Kargan ships. Rains waited until the Kargans were fully committed to their pursuit. Activate the beacons, he ordered. Across the belt, dozens of massive asteroids suddenly changed direction. In the Kargan fleet's view, the motion was too slow to notice at first, until at WASN T.1 cruiser was smashed to pieces by a rock the size of a mountain. Another had its engines destroyed by a smaller but faster-moving asteroid. Panic gripped the fleet. Ships tried to maneuver out of the field, but the loss of their relay ship made coordination nearly impossible. In the council chamber, the alien delegates were in shock. The Vrak general spoke quietly. They're using the asteroids as weapons. Admiral Korvac didn't reply. His eyes were fixed on the small human ship weaving effortlessly through the chaos. Untouched. On the Whisper, Rains watched the destruction calmly. Hold fire, he said. Let the rocks do our work for now. Kara's voice was almost a whisper. Sir, they'll hate us for this. Good, Rains replied. Fear is useful. By the time the trap had finished, 27 Kargan warships were gone, and the Whisper hadn't fired a single visible shot. But Rains knew the real fight was only beginning. The Kargans were enraged now. They would come with everything. They had, and that was exactly what he wanted. He turned to his crew. Phase 2 begins now. Aye. The belt of Vorn was no longer silent. Shattered hulls drifted in slow motion, pieces of Kargan ships tumbling through the darkness. Flames from ruptured reactors flickered for seconds before the vacuum snuffed them out. But despite the heavy losses, the Kargan fleet was far from finished. On the flagship Blood Fang, Warlord Dravok's voice was a low, furious growl. Enough tricks, enough games. We will find them. And when we do, we will rip them apart. His eyes scanned the tactical map. More than 270 warships still remained, cruisers, destroyers, and massive dreadnoughts. The humans had bloodied them, but they had not broken their power. The flagship's crew worked feverishly. Scanners swept the asteroid belt in wide arcs. Hunting packs of 5 to 7 ships moved through the rocks, firing at anything suspicious. This was no longer a hunt for sport. This was a hunt for vengeance. On the HSS Whisper, the atmosphere was the opposite of panic. It was cold, quiet, and controlled. The crew spoke in short, precise sentences. Every movement was calculated. Captain Elias Rain stood in the center of the bridge, his eyes fixed on the flickering red dots that marked the Kargan ships on the holographic display. "Lieutenant," Kara Voss reported softly. "Kargan search groups moving on 3 vectors. Closest pack is 8 ships, heading toward our position." "Good," Rain said, his tone calm, almost casual. "Time for the first strike." The Whisper did not move toward its prey. Instead, it drifted in the shadow of a massive asteroid, its hull almost invisible against the rock. From one of its side bays, a small object detached, Drone 5. Unlike the earlier drones, this one carried no explosives. It was designed for infiltration. It crept toward the Kargan search group, riding the gravitational wake of nearby rocks to mask its approach. Inside the lead Kargan cruiser of the group, Commander Vorkuth barked orders to his crew. "Search every shadow. The human ship cannot hide forever." His second-in-command frowned at the scanners. "Sir, I am detecting a faint heat source, but it's too small to be the enemy warship. Destroy it anyway." A gunner aimed the cruiser's cannons toward the reading, but before he could fire, the signal vanished. The heat source was gone because the drone had already attached itself to the cruiser's hull. It moved like a living thing, crawling along the surface, avoiding exposed sensors and weapons. Within seconds, it found what it was looking for, the main communication hub. The drone extended a thin arm and began feeding corrupted data into the ship's systems. Back on the Whisper, Lieutenant Voss monitored the feed. "Infiltration successful. They're not going to see this coming." Rains nodded. "Disable their shields. Then signal Drone 6 to proceed." Drone 6 had been hiding inside the hollow of a spinning asteroid. At the signal, it launched forward, its small thrusters pushing it toward the cruiser. As it neared, the ship's shields flickered, then collapsed completely. In that moment, the drone released its payload, a shaped charge designed to punch straight through armor and into the reactor core. The detonation was precise. The cruiser split open from the inside, venting crew and fire into the void. From a distance, the rest of the Kargan search group froze. Their lead ship was gone in an instant. No missile trails, no visible attack, just sudden destruction. The Kargan ships broke formation, some firing wildly into the rocks, others retreating behind cover. That was when the Whisper moved. For the first time, the human warship powered its main engines to full. It shot out from behind the asteroid like a silver dart. The Kargan saw it too late. The Whisper's forward cannons lit up, firing streams of hypervelocity slugs. The first salvo tore through a destroyer's bridge, killing its command crew instantly. The second crippled a gunship before it could even bring its weapons to bear. The Whisper didn't stay to finish them. It darted between asteroids, vanishing. Again before the Kargans could coordinate a counterattack. In the Galactic Council chamber, the alien delegates watched in stunned silence. Admiral Korvac's jaw tightened. "They are not fighting like we do." The Vrak general's mandibles clicked nervously. "They're not fighting at all. They're hunting." The human ambassador said nothing, his eyes fixed on the screen. Back on the Whisper, the cruise. Breathing was steady. No cheering, no celebration. Destroying enemy ships was just another step in the plan. Rain studied the map again, marked the survivors from that search group. They'll be running scared. That fear will spread. On the Blood Fang, Warlord Dravuk roared at his officers. "Send 10 ships to each group. If the humans want to hide, we will smoke them out." But deep down, Dravuk felt something he hadn't felt in years: uncertainty. This was not a straight battle. This was war in the shadows, and the humans seemed born for it. Hours passed. The Whisper repeated the tactic again and again. Isolated Kargan groups would vanish from the map, one after another. Sometimes it was drones. Sometimes it was asteroid collisions. Sometimes the Whisper appeared from nowhere, struck and disappeared. Before anyone could react, by the end of the third hour, the Kargan fleet had lost nearly 50 ships. But Rains knew they couldn't keep this up forever. The Kargans were learning. Their formations were tightening. Their scanning patterns were improving. It was time for the next stage. Lieutenant Vos glanced at him. Sir, the fleet is concentrating around the flagship. They're forming a defensive wall. Exactly what we want, Rains replied. Prepare. The Black Spear. The Black Spear launcher was buried deep inside the Whisper's hull. It looked like a smooth metal cylinder, but its warhead was anything but ordinary. It could slip through shield harmonics, ignoring energy barriers completely. Rains stepped to the helm. Course heading, straight for the flagship. The crew stared at him, but no one argued. The Whisper accelerated, weaving through asteroids. As the flagship loomed ahead, the defensive wall of Kargan ships tightened. Weapons locked on. Then, without warning, the Whisper vanished from their scanners. The Kargan crews were still searching when the ship reappeared inside the defensive line. Far too close for them to react, Rains didn't waste time. Fire. The spear, the weapon launched silently. To the Kargans, it was just a shimmer in the void, passing through their shields as if they weren't there. It struck the flagship's port side and disappeared. For 2 long seconds, nothing happened. Then, the Blood Fang's entire port section detonated. The blast ripped through the ship's core, killing hundreds instantly and throwing the rest of the fleet into chaos. In the council chamber, the silence was absolute. Even the usually arrogant Admiral Korvek could only whisper, "One shot." The human ambassador simply folded his hands. Back in the belt of Vorn, Rains gave the order. All ships left in their formation are blind. Finish the job. The drones moved in, striking at damaged cruisers. Asteroids, guided by gravitic pulses, smashed into fleeing ships. By the time the fighting stopped, the Kargan fleet was no longer a fleet. It was scattered wreckage drifting in the dark. The Whisper didn't linger. It turned away from the battlefield, its engines glowing faintly as it slipped back into the asteroids. Rain stood on the bridge, looking at the map one last time. "That was just the first kill," he said quietly. "The real hunt begins now." The belt of Vorn had turned into a graveyard. What had been a mighty Kargan fleet only hours ago was now a scattered mess of burning wrecks and drifting debris. The wreckage spun slowly among the asteroids, silent reminders of the destruction that had taken place. But despite their losses, the Kargans were not retreating. They were angry. On the surviving Kargan flagship Iron Fang, Warlord Dravok stood at the center of the bridge, his eyes burning with rage. His tail lashed the floor. With each word, "We have lost too many ships to shadows and ghosts. No more hiding. No more running. We will flush them out and crush them with our own hands." The surviving Kargan commanders stood in a half-circle around him. Many had visible injuries, armor scorched from near-miss explosions. They looked humiliated, but also determined. One of them, Commander Vorth, growled, "Warlord, the human ship is small, but it moves like nothing we've ever seen. Even our fastest interceptors can't lock onto it for more than seconds." Dravok's lip curled in disgust. "Then we do not chase it. We force it to come to us." While the Kargans were plotting, the HSS Whisper was deep inside the asteroid belt, completely hidden from scanners. The bridge was quiet. Every light was dimmed to red. The hum of the ship's systems was the only sound. Captain Elias Rain stood at the viewport, hands behind his back, staring at a field of slowly rotating rocks. Lieutenant Karavas approached. "Sir, reports from the drones. The Kargans are regrouping. They're pulling the survivors together around the Iron Fang." Rains nodded slightly. "Good. Let them think they have the upper hand." Kara frowned. "Sir, their formation is tight. If we go in, it will be a brawl, not an ambush." "That's exactly what they want," Rains replied. "But we'll make them believe we're falling into their trap." In the Galactic Council chamber, the atmosphere had changed completely. Hours ago, the alien delegates had laughed at the human warship. Now they leaned forward, watching every movement on the massive screen with tense silence. Admiral Korvac, who had mocked the humans the loudest, kept his arms crossed. The Kargans are gathering. This will be the humans' final stand. The human ambassador didn't even glance at him. If it is a stand, it will not be final. The Kargans' new strategy was simple: lure the Whisper into attacking the fleet center, where heavy weapons could fire from all sides. But Dravik had added something extra. He had positioned smaller ships in hidden spots among the asteroids, hoping to trap the Whisper the moment it made its move. From the Kargan perspective, this was flawless. There was no way a single ship could survive entering that kill zone. But the Whisper wasn't planning to fight in the kill zone. Rains studied the Kargan formation on the tactical display. The hologram rotated slowly, showing the positions of each ship. "They want us in the middle," he said, mostly to himself. "So we'll give them what they want, and then take it away." He pointed to 3 locations on the map. "Deploy. Drones 7, 8, and 9 here, and here. Keep them cold until my signal." Kara's eyes widened. "That's inside their formation." "Exactly," Rain said. The drones launched quietly, each one using the shadows of nearby asteroids to mask its movement. They slipped into the spaces between Kargan ships, completely unnoticed. On the Iron Fang, the sensor operators scanned constantly, but the drones were invisible. No heat, no light, no energy emissions. Once the drones were in place, Rains gave the next order: "Bring us out of hiding. Full burn toward the Iron Fang. Make it look reckless." The Whisper roared to life, engines glowing bright. Its sleek frame darted from the asteroid shadows, heading straight toward the heart of the Kargan fleet. The Iron Fang. Dravik saw the incoming ship and grinned viciously. At last, the prey shows itself. All ships, close the net. The Kargan formation shifted instantly, warships moving in to block every possible escape route. The Whisper kept coming. No weaving, no sudden course changes. It looked like a desperate suicidal charge. In the council chamber, Admiral Korvac leaned forward, his voice tight. "They've made a mistake. They won't escape this." The human ambassador's face remained unreadable. "We'll see." As the Whisper neared the outer ring of the Kargan fleet, incoming fire lit up the darkness. Massive plasma bolts and railgun slugs streaked toward the human ship. The Whisper danced between them, rolling and cutting through the void like a blade. But even so, the shields flared from near hits. Inside, the crew was calm. "Drone status?" Rains asked. Kara checked. "All 3 in position," Rains nodded. "Activate them." In an instant, the drones powered up and released their payloads, not explosives, but gravitic charges. The moment they detonated, the local gravity shifted violently. Several massive asteroids nearby suddenly accelerated, hurtling straight toward the Kargan ships. The formation shattered in seconds. 2 destroyers were crushed instantly. A battlecruiser's engines were ripped away by a glancing collision. From the chaos, the Whisper slipped through a gap and went straight for the Iron Fang. Dravok's crew scrambled to aim their weapons. But the human ship was already too close. "Launch the Black Spear," Rains ordered. The spear-shaped projectile streaked forward, piercing the flagship's shields like paper. It struck deep into the hull before detonating. The Iron Fangs bridge erupted in fire and debris. The moment the flagship was crippled, Rains gave the final order: "All drones, clean up." Explosions rippled across the battlefield as the remaining drones struck damaged ships, finishing them off. In less than 10 minutes, the carefully prepared Kargan trap had turned into a slaughter, and they were the ones being hunted. On the council's viewing screens, the delegates watched the impossible happen. The Vrak general whispered, "They turned the hunters into prey." The human ambassador finally spoke. That's what humans do best. When the last Kargan ship broke and ran, the Whisper didn't chase. It simply vanished back into the asteroid field, leaving the survivors to carry their fear home. On the bridge, Rains looked at his crew. This was never about one battle. The message has been sent. Now the galaxy will start to understand. The belt of Vorn was quiet for the first time in hours. The wreckage of the Kargan fleet drifted among the asteroids, hulks of warships smoking silently in the cold void. Flames from ruptured reactors flickered briefly before being snuffed out. By the emptiness of space, the HSS Whisper floated in the shadows, its silver hull almost invisible against the rocks. Inside, the crew moved quietly, checking systems and monitoring the scattered remains of the enemy fleet. Captain Elias Rains stood at the center of the bridge, eyes fixed on the holographic display. Red dots marked the remaining Kargan ships. Few in number and scattered, but still dangerous. "Status report," he said calmly. Lieutenant Caravas, her fingers flying over the console, looked up. "Remaining Kargan ships, 16. Most are crippled or barely functional. They're retreating, but not all are gone." Rains nodded. "Good, that's enough for the message, but we are not finished. It's time to show the full power of the Black Spear." The crew exchanged glances. The Black Spear was not just a weapon, it was a symbol. Few humans even knew its full capabilities. And the Kargans would soon understand why it had been feared in whispers across the galaxy. Rains turned to the tactical officer. "Plot the approach path. I want maximum coverage, minimal exposure." Kara typed in a series of coordinates. "The spear launch corridor is set, Captain. We'll clear a path through the asteroids and avoid any remaining Kargan fire." Rains' eyes narrowed. "Make it look like we're attacking from the wrong direction. They won't see it coming." On the Kargan side, Warlord Dravuk had gathered the survivors. They huddled near the flagship's core, trying to assess what had just happened. How did a single ship destroy so many of us?" Dravuk's voice was low, shaking with rage. Commander Vorth tried to offer an explanation. "It's not just the ship, Warlord. They are using the terrain drones and some unknown weapon. We can't match it directly." Dravuk slammed his clawed fist on the control panel. "Then we force them into open space. We will not fight inside their shadows. Bring all firepower to bear. I want that ship dead." The Whisper advanced slowly through the asteroid field. Its engines glowed faintly, enough to allow careful navigation while remaining nearly invisible to the Kargan sensors. Rains watched as the first target group appeared on the map, a squad of 4 crippled Kargan cruisers attempting to regroup. Drone 10 and 11, engage. The drones detached silently and drifted toward the enemy. Inside the cruisers, crews scrambled to respond, but the drones were invisible, moving faster than any human or alien could see. In seconds, 2 cruisers were destroyed by perfectly placed charges. The other 2 veered into asteroid collisions, breaking apart before they could escape. Rains leaned on the rail, his eyes never leaving the holographic map. "Good, now the spear." The Black Spear launcher, hidden deep in the Whisper, powered up. The weapon looked like a sleek metallic cylinder, but its warhead contained a concentrated gravitic disruptor and hyperdense explosive. It could pierce any shield and destroy even a Dreadnought-class vessel, targeting Bloodfang survivors and remaining heavy ships. Rains instructed, the tactical officer acknowledged, and the targeting array locked onto the remaining 16 Kargan vessels. On the Kargan side, the surviving ships began to notice movement among the asteroids. "They're approaching," one officer shouted. "Full shields. Prepare for attack." But before the Kargans could react, the spear fired. The projectile streaked silently through space, passing through shields as if they weren't there. It split into multiple sub-projectiles mid-flight, each one homing on a separate target. One by one, the Kargan ships were hit, The explosions were precise and devastating. A destroyer's engines were blown away instantly. A cruiser's bridge disintegrated. A heavy dreadnought fractured in the middle, tearing apart from the inside. The Kargans panicked. They had never faced a weapon like this. Their fleets had been powerful, their technology advanced, but nothing in their history prepared them. For the precision and speed of the Black Spear, Warlord Dravuk roared in frustration. Focus fire. Kill that ship before it destroys everything. But it was too late. The remaining Kargan vessels were trapped. The spear's sub-projectiles moved, faster than any interceptor could respond. Inside the Whisper, the crew worked efficiently. Spear impact confirmed. 12 targets destroyed, Kara reported. 4 ships remaining. Heavy cruisers only. Rains nodded. Good. Phase 2, asteroids. He tapped a sequence on the console. The previously planted gravitic beacons. Activated. Massive asteroids shifted course, aimed directly at the surviving Kargan ships. The Kargans had no time to evade. 2 heavy cruisers were crushed instantly. The remaining 2 smashed against asteroid debris. By the time the dust settled, not a single functional Kargan ship remained in the belt of Vorn. The Whisper drifted quietly through the aftermath. Smoke and debris floated in every direction. The sheer scale of destruction left even the most battle-hardened crew stunned. Message sent, Rain said softly. Looking at the holographic map. Lieutenant Voss nodded. They'll remember this for generations. No fleet survives a single human warship like this. Rains didn't answer immediately. He studied the belt, his mind already considering the next move. In the Galactic Council chamber, the delegates were speechless. Admiral Korvac's usually loud, commanding voice was quiet. I've never seen anything like this. 1 ship destroyed an entire fleet. The Vrak general's mandibles clicked nervously. It's not just the ship, it's their tactics, their thinking. They fight differently than anyone else. The human ambassador's face remained calm, almost serene. Humans are never to be underestimated. Back on the Whisper, the crew began damage checks and repairs. Though the ship had avoided all significant hits, the battle had been intense. Systems were pushed to the limit. Rains walked to the viewport, looking at the wreckage drifting silently in the belt. Every weapon has a limit. Every fleet has a weakness. But humans adapt. Kara joined him. Sir, what now? The Kargans are finished here. Rains turned slowly, a faint smile on his face. We wait. The galaxy will respond soon. Let them hear the story of the ship that destroyed a fleet. And let them fear what comes next. Even as the Whisper powered down to minimal drift, its legend had begun. Across the galaxy, reports would spread. Whispers of a human ship capable of unmatched destruction. Stories of tactics no alien race could anticipate. The Black Spear, a single weapon in the hands of a human crew, had changed the rules of war forever. For the humans, this was only the beginning. The universe would soon understand that small ships, cunning minds, and fearless crews could achieve what massive fleets could not. And for Captain Rains and the HSS Whisper, the next battles were waiting. Unseen, unplanned, and deadly. The belt of Vorn was quiet now. The shattered remains of the Kargan fleet drifted silently among the asteroids. Smoke and fire from ruptured reactors were fading, leaving only dark hulks floating in space. Every red dot of the once mighty fleet had vanished. The HSS Whisper drifted slowly, its silver hull barely visible against the rocks. Inside, the crew moved quietly, methodically. They had survived, they had won, but the calm was tense. Every crew member knew this was only the start. Captain Elias Rain stood at the viewport, hands clasped behind his back, staring at the empty battlefield. It's done, said Lieutenant Karavas softly, not taking her eyes off the map. Rains shook his head. Not done, just begun. The galaxy will talk about this for generations. And now we wait. Even as the humans rested, the news spread faster than any fleet could move. Across distant star systems, Kargan survivors transmitted warnings. The story of one small human warship annihilating their fleet became legend within hours. Fleet commanders shivered as they listened. Whispers of the HSS Whisper and the Black Spear traveled from one planet to another. In the council chambers, the alien delegates were silent. Admiral Korvac, usually proud and arrogant, clenched his fists. One ship, one human ship destroyed an entire fleet. How can this be? The Vrak general clicked her mandibles nervously. It's not just the weapon, it's their strategy, their mind. We cannot fight like this. The human ambassador simply smiled, calm and confident. Humans do not fight like anyone else, and that is why they survive. Back in the belt, Rains turned to his tactical officer. Check for survivors. Any escaping ships? Kara scanned the readings. Minor. Craft only, Captain. No functional warships remain. The Kargans are gone for now. Good. Leave no doubt, Rains said. Deploy drones to secure the wreckage fields. Make sure no surprises remain. As the crew prepared for post-battle operations, a faint signal appeared on the long-range scanners. Captain, Kara said, eyebrows raised. Incoming transmissions. From multiple systems, they're reporting sightings. They're talking about us. Rains studied the readout. Let them talk, he said. Let the galaxy know the humans are not weak. Let them remember the name Whisper. Meanwhile, across star systems, fleets gathered in secret. Leaders debated. Scientists argued. The legend of the human ship had reached every corner of civilized space. Some dismissed it as exaggeration. Others feared it as reality. Admiral Korvac issued a formal report to the council. One human ship has changed the rules of war. We must adapt. We must learn from this. The council remained silent, and the human ambassador simply observed. He did not need to speak. The humans had already made their mark. On the Whisper, the crew gathered in the central hall for a brief debrief. The battle had been hard fought, but no lives were lost. The ship was mostly intact. Still, the tension was evident. Rains addressed the crew. You have all done well. Every strategy, every maneuver, every drone strike. Precise and calculated. The Kargans learned quickly that humans are not to be underestimated. The crew nodded, exhausted but proud. But remember, Rains continued, this is only the beginning. Other fleets, other species, will now pay attention. They will try to hunt us, test us. And we must be ready. Kara spoke quietly. Captain, do you think they'll come back? Rains smiled faintly, a shadow of calm determination on his face. Yes, and when they do, we will be ready. The galaxy now knows the legend begins with this battle. And every time they think they can stop us, they will be wrong. The Whisper moved silently through the asteroid belt, its hull glinting faintly in the distant starlight. The crew worked quietly, monitoring systems, running diagnostics, repairing minor damage. Each console and panel was checked twice. No mistakes could be made. Even as the ship drifted, Captain Rains stared at the holographic map, planning, predicting. The Kargans would recover, rebuild, and retaliate. But the humans had proven a simple truth: brains, courage, and cunning could outweigh sheer numbers. Across the belt, drifting wrecks told the tale of what had happened. Every Kargan crew that had survived would carry the story back to their homeworlds. Every report, every whisper, every rumor would amplify the legend. And in the council, the alien delegates could do nothing but watch. Humans are dangerous, said Admiral Korvac quietly. The Vrak general clicked her mandibles in agreement. Yes, and now the galaxy knows. In the central hall of the Whisper, Rains gathered the crew once more. We are the first to show that small ships, courage, and ingenuity can defeat fleets that outnumber us. That is the human way. But our story does not end here. The galaxy will test us again. Other threats will come. And when they do, they will learn what we already know. Humans are not weak. Humans adapt, and humans survive. The crew listened. Silently, their eyes shone with pride and determination. Outside, the stars were still and cold. The belt of Vorn stretched endlessly, a silent witness to the destruction, but also a promise that humans had changed the rules of war. The Whisper powered its engines and slipped quietly from the belt, leaving the wreckage behind. The ship moved toward uncharted space, unseen, unknown, but feared. For Captain Elias Rains and his crew, the legend had begun, and for the galaxy, the name HSS Whisper would echo for generations, a reminder that one small human ship with courage and cunning could defeat even the greatest fleets. The story of the Black Spear, the strategy, the drones, and the fearless human crew would be told again and again. Across every star system, in every council chamber, across every fleet, one message became clear: never underestimate humanity. And somewhere in the void, the crew of the Whisper prepared for the next challenge, knowing that no matter the enemy, no matter the odds, humans would survive, and their legend would only grow stronger. The galaxy had changed. The humans had proven it. The legend had begun.